This is my first user conference. It's been helpful. Our speaker at lunch yesterday was a very, well brought some things to the attention that needed to be said. The workshops have been very helpful so far. I've gotten to, some building the conversations, the data conversations, which is critical with getting the program off with the teachers. So I've found so far it's been very helpful.
The presentation, I think that one of the huge impacts were the ability to use the suspension data and to correlate it with, how would you say it, to correlate it to results from CSTs or various other testing programs to see if there are reasons beyond just the standard raw number reasons why achievement is or isn't happening. I think that was one of the biggest aspects of being able to have that information and to kind of be able to humanize it in a way. I think was a really big thing that I draw from what Andrew was saying.
That's exactly right. When you're able to lay that data side by side, the suspension data, the attendance data, the CST data, CELT scores, Casey scores, when you click on that kid, that hyperlink, and it all of a sudden pulls up that kid and you see all this stuff,
right,
then it paints a picture. And really, you need to start with that data to paint that picture, so that you see what's going on with that kid, and you can start having some conversations outside of the box with how can I get this kid engaged, what's going on with you, because really when you see achievement increase, a lot of it just comes from the trust engagement that's really created in the classroom with the teacher.
It really does.
That is where a lot of kids succeed. And if you ask kids who their best teacher and this, and those are the classes that they really had positive outcomes in.
I agree.
And it starts by the teacher having a clue as to what's going on with that kid. And the other side of it is, if you have multiple teachers that have the same kid and they're all hyperlinking on that same data, then they can have that conversation amongst each other. Like, I see that Johnny, he's struggling in the math class, the English class, this class. Let's collectively get together, try to do some type of student assistance program team to really assist that kid. And that's where you get the data that, like Ed presented here.
Yeah, I think that
powerful,
does.
Very powerful.
Very much so, and it really does begin with that knowing the kid in the classroom, and again, I just use that. It makes the data humanized. There's a person attached to this in so many different ways. If it's an attendance thing, that first period's teacher may recognize. Yeah, he always seems like in the morning he's a little disheveled. Not really with it yet, but then the third period teacher, well, when he comes to my class, it seems like he's pretty calm and engaged, and you might find that, well, from my understanding in the first period, he's just coming in from pretty much barely being able to get to school in the morning. And if they're having that conversation amongst those teachers, then you may know the first period may be able to better know how to get him engaged earlier, so by the time the day goes along, the student is in a better place.
Yeah. Or it shows that he's skipping fifth period on a regular basis.
Right.
And you find out the fifth period is his math class, and he really is just struggling in that class. He doesn't want to be in there. But you wouldn't know that unless you pulled up, that data director information and looked at it and like, wow, okay, I see like 2 or 3 days a week, he's like, not in this class.
Right.
And that, prompts you to ask the question. And again, without that data, you sometimes don't have those prompting questions.
Yeah.
Because, a teacher's got so many kids, but if you put something in front of them that they can look at, that's usable and easy to follow, which I believe is what this program provides.
I agree.
Then you can start, making some decisions as a teacher. I think that's critical.
Yeah. The data director, just on the other thing, a data director itself, I think, gives you that information's out there in various places, but to be able to be consolidated where you could use it all at once in a click because you don't have all that time in that classroom.
Exactly.
That's really one of the biggest, to me, one of the biggest things that it as a program brings. When we're talking to our teachers, I work in assessment, research, and evaluation. And when we're talking to our teachers, when we're out there like doing some update training or some things like that with Data Director, I always want them to realize the information's there and you've always had it. But you don't have the time to go looking for some of it here and check some of it here. You know, that kind of electronic cum thing that it does when you click on a student.
Right.
It's now all in one place. Okay, 2 minutes, I can see all this information. Got it. Got some idea of it. You know, you can go further and further with it, but at least if on a quick read,
Right.
you can take a look at all that in one little place.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, a big benefit of just the program itself.
Exactly. For me, as director of curriculum instruction, having that data available for the teachers to assess and then retest or reteach the students based on looking at mastery of standards. That was another thing that I got out of one of my workshops yesterday, was the ability for the results to be pumped out to the teachers with whether a student has mastered the standards or not mastered the standards. And then you can take that and isolate on those particular students, and then you can change your instruction, differentiate your instruction based on your conversations with your colleagues, because you can sit around with all the, you know, Algebra 1 teachers, and you can all look at this common benchmark assessment where you have this test question, and question 9, you know, all the students were bombing on that question. Well, let's go back and look at it. Well, without that data, then you really are kind of difficult to have that collegial conversation with your colleagues to make those kind of decisions on what was it, or, you know, this teacher, you know, the kids really did well on that question, but these other teachers didn't. What did that teacher do?
Yeah.
And you know, you have to be started off with having that data. And to me, in my position, to try to work with people with their instruction, it's really so critical to have that information about the test results and whether students are mastering those standards, because, you know, that's what's critical on knowing whether you need to move ahead. Like, I have 85% of my students have mastered that standard, then, you know, that's going to give me the feeling about, okay, I'm going to move ahead on another subject. Well, if only 40% mastered it, then hey, we're going to have to reteach this. And then, you know, you can also have multiple forms of tests, so that you can keep doing different assessments to determine whether they are mastering it, without worrying about, as a teacher, you know, you're having your test out there. You know, you can shuffle it around. The program allows you to shuffle the questions around. You can have different forms of the test with, you know, the program just gives you a lot of flexibility, and it's a powerful tool.